Hello, good night to all the Agile leads. It's 11 p.m. and this is Passion for Agile. So today we're going to be discussing strategic agility, what can be approaches and what can be tools that help us achieve a strategic agility. Why? Basically because strategic agility can help us unlock business growth and generate economic impact, a positive economic impact. My name is Nastasia Velasco, and I'm the founder of Growth Vikings. I hope you enjoy today's discussion. Now, a little bit about us very quickly. So at Growth Vikings, we are basically just a source of agile inventions for business that wish to grow in an agile way and for transformational leaders. We want to be the source of innovations for those that want to discover and learn agile for growing, not for just learning, but for growing, for achieving growth as a business or as a transformational leader. So if you're any of those, we want to talk with you. Now, with that said, let's actually begin today's discussion. But why do we have a lotus in a strategic agility conversation, right? And we actually have the lotus because the lotus is the symbol of self-regeneration, of rebirth. It's a very interesting flower because its roots, even in the dirtiest waters, produce the most beautiful flower, right? Which is the lotus. So we think that this is kind of a great example of what business go through when they start to build a strategic agility. For businesses, going into agility is actually a process of regeneration, of being reborn and actually it's a process that allows them to emerge from their dirty waters and become a wonderful business. All right, so that's why we actually put here the lotus. We hope you like it. It also, of course, is associated to the model for business agilities that we're proposing at Growth Vikings, and that we are extremely grateful with the community of Agilists from the Agile Leagues for sharing their insights and input into this model. Thank you so much. And at the core of the model is the customer, right? And basically what the model says is like, if you want to achieve business agility, let the customer voice be across your purpose, your use of technology, in the mind of your people, and contemplate it in your organizational culture, right? Let the voice of the customer feed your purpose, feed your ideas on how to use your technology, feed the everyday work of your people, feed the culture, okay, of your organization. The model tells you too that if the customer voice feed your purpose, your uses of technology, your people, and your culture, there's high probabilities that your strategy, your delivery, and your decision-making responds to the voice of the customer, and hence that your operations at team level, at workflow level, at level of managing and maximizing the use of your data and your financial strategy, as well as your leadership and innovative approach, are fed by the voice of the customer. So how cool is that, right? So that's in a nutshell what we're proposing. Very simple. Now we're going to talk very briefly why today Agile, it's an imperative, as simple as that. And how the Agile Lotus work, why does it have the components that it has, and that makes it different from all other models out there. What are some tools that can help us achieve business agility? I'm a previous founder, and I've worked with lots of CEOs in startups, right? And great, we need just to have tools, right? So what can be some tools that as founders or as CEOs from startup, early stage startups or scale ups, we could use to achieve business agility. Or actually, if you are a transformational leader in your organization, in a big organization, or either in the public, private sector, and you're trying to achieve agility within your organization, what are some tools that you can use as an agilist? Yeah. So we will discuss those because tools make things happen. All right. So let's go about it. The agile imperative. Why business agility is fundamental today. So we shared this question in our meetup, the Agile Leads, and everyone kind of agreed that business agility is fundamental today because it is a VUCA world, it is quite fast-paced, and if we want to survive and win customers rather than lose them, we really need to incorporate business agility. And that's actually okay. This is the common narrative of why business agility. But today we wanted to bring you a more structured approach of why agility is fundamental today. And in order to discuss this, we actually brought you a great diagram by one of the great professors at MIT that she's actually leading digital transformation of organizations. And we thought this would be super useful. It's useful because it just allows us to see that from a business approach, which is what we care, business agility comes to be a business capability. As you see, agility and innovation are the two key business capabilities in today's digital world. Why? They allow us to generate digital outputs thanks to the customer engagement and the digitized solutions that they generate. But of course, for agility to happen, there must be a specific use of the technology resources and some management practices, as we can see right here. Okay, so yes, the operational backbone, the digital service platform that we create internally, and their linkages, of course, affect our capabilities. Okay, especially the agility. But just from an organizational point of view, agility is fundamental today because it's a business capability that allows us to generate digital outputs. So easy, right? So that's from an internal point of view. From an external point of view, business agility allows us to compete and succeed in today's fast-paced and quickly changing markets, right? So it allows us to compete and succeed in the digital age by quickly responding to market changes and opportunities with innovative business solutions. So that's kind of like the external approach, right? Agility allows us, if we have it, to compete and succeed in today's fast-paced markets and customer and fast-changing customer needs, right? A very simple definition that I love, and this is something that I have just learned at operative level, not with many organizations, because I haven't worked with as many as maybe some of you have, which congratulations, by the way, is that business agility comes to be the ability to delight our customers with the right solutions in the right time and in the right way continuously. That's what comes to be for me, business agility. All right, so that's just my learning from some startups that I work with and from some public organizations and nonprofit organizations that I work with. That's what business agility or organizational agility comes to be. Now, let's see what the business agility lotus is about, which is a framework, by the way. It's a framework. And as a framework, it simply seeks to inform how we could approach business agility. What are some elements that we have to have in mind when we talk about business agility? What should we make sure operates properly in order to be agile as a business? And when I say operate properly, I mean which elements we must make sure the customer voice is integrated so we can succeed in today's market in which we are competing or in which we are trying to lead. So as mentioned before, at the core of the model is the customer, right here. And the customer feeds or should feed the organization purpose, the organization use of its technology. It should be in the mind of the people of the organization, and it should be integrated in the organizational culture, the voice of that customer, which is changing, constantly. Hence, it means that our people and our culture must have a way of being. If that happens, then our strategy, our delivery, and our decision making is informed by the voice of the customer, and hence our operations, okay, and our ways of being at team level, at workflow level, in the management of our data, in our leadership style, in our innovation approach, and in the management of our financials, will be informed by our customer, right? Like it would align with us achieving what we need in each of these areas so we can satisfy our customer, keep leading our solutions, and being the best solution for our customer. Yeah. So that's the model, yeah, or the framework. Another way of seeing the lotus is simply seeing it as a cone. Yeah. So here's the voice of the customer. It should feed these key elements, what we call the heart and soul. Yes, like the bones, of business agility, the purpose, the technology, the people, and the culture. And when the voice of the customer is integrated here, then at a strategic level, the delivery, the decision-making, and the strategy are informed by that voice of the customer. And hence, our actions at financial, at workflow level, at leadership level, at team level, in the management of our data, and in our innovation approach are fed by the voice of the customer. Great. So that's the framework. So let's start with the heart and soul of business agility, which is the customer. Okay. So what do we mean with the customer being the heart and soul? So many of you have already heard that being agile is about being customer centric. And it's like being adaptable. No. It's about being customer centric. Being agile is about being customer centric. And that means that the voice of the customer prevails. So that sounds pretty good, but what does that mean at operational level? Yeah, so that means that operational level, that we know what are the jobs to be done for our customer. We are clear what our customer wants to accomplish, and we are able to provide the solutions that help him get those jobs done and accomplish what he wants in the best way in the market. That's it. Yes, so it sounds easy, right? But it's pretty hard, right? Like, well, just figuring out properly what are those jobs to be done with the customer already entails a whole set of operations, skills, and knowledge that we might or might not have in our organization, or we might think that we have them, but we don't have them. Yeah. So that's one thing that we need. And the other thing that it involves is us being very clear on that area in which what's desirable for the customer, what is feasible, and what's viable actually mean. Where is the space where desirability, feasibility, and viability meet? Where do they meet? Yeah, where do they meet? because where they meet actually allows us to generate that customer-centric solution that is also very beneficial for us as an organization. So being customer-centric means putting the voice of the customer first, and that means that the voice of the business comes second. Comes second. And is the voice of the customer what informs what should be that strategy, that approach that we should have to position to generate solutions and to position solutions and to deliver those solutions. So how do we generate, how do we position, how do we deliver? Those things are informed by what we know from the customer. That's the heart and soul. Very easy, we know. The customer. And now we understand a little bit, what does that mean? But what are the bones of a strategic agility, of a strategic business agility, to be precise? Well, the bones of a strategic business agility is having a clear purpose as an organization. And listen to this: purpose before strategy. And we're going to see why. Second, having a clear understanding of what is the use that we're going to do of our technology. What our technology mix is going to be in order for us to be the best ones responding with solutions to what our customer informed us he wants to accomplish, right? So the other element is people. Are our people agile? There are certain characteristics of agile people. And is our culture agile enough? Yes or no? We're going to see that there are some characteristics also for that. So purpose, technology, people, and culture are the bones of a strategic agility. So what are they? Like, what is it about? So purpose is very important. It actually has become the source. It's a source of organizational stability. And actually purpose is just the answer to why do we exist. Why do we exist? That's your purpose as an organization. It is very important because, as we can see right here, in today's world, purpose is more enduring than a strategy. Hence, make sure that your organization has a clear purpose. Organizations with clear purpose can be more agile than organizations that just rely on a strategy, but they don't have a clear purpose. The other thing is that you got to know how to narrate that purpose and evolve that purpose through time. That makes also the organization more agile. Having a purpose, being able to narrate it and evolve it through time. So that's one key component of business agility, having a purpose. Purpose allows you to have a cushion when things get rough and you need to go through those things, all right? The other key component of business agility is people. We cannot have in an organization certain characteristics, right? So usually organizations that are agile have people that are curious, that like to collaborate with each other, that embrace diversity, that are worried about inclusion, that are deeply connected with other individuals, with their business, with their society. They care about this, okay? Are people that are pursuing, meaning, purpose. Hence, for them, it's easy to operate when they have this clear. Are people that like to experiment, that they like to learn, they're fast in adapting, they're self-organized, they're trustworthy, they are transparent, and they are actually able also to harness the power of boundary spanning, right? So we know that we have some agile people when we come across with people with this characteristics. They're curious, collaborative. They don't like these boundaries. They love to talk across teams and across hierarchies. They just want to learn, do, get things done, and they have a clear purpose too, right? They don't care if things are going fast because they adapt to things that are fast. They're little entrepreneurs, right? Just to be honest. The culture. Another thing that allows us to achieve business agility is when we have a culture that has an outside-in perspective, that is pretty comfortable with experimentation and risk-taking, like, well, we fail at something, okay, we celebrate it, we get the learnings, and we go and we do it better, right? Rather than, oh no, I cannot say this or that, I cannot fail, hence people take longer to do things, right? So no, a culture that has some comfort with experimentation and risk-taking. Also, a culture in which there's faster decision making and learning, not a slow decision making. No, there's fast decision making and learning. Which people are connected, in which there's collaboration, there's autonomy, and very important, there is simplicity. So this is very important, right? Because culture can be sometimes quite pervasive and is slow to change on its own, right? So something that allows business agility is actually having a culture that has some of these characteristics, right? And the final element of a strategic agility is technology. Technology, we cannot survive in today's world without technology. So the integration of big data, AI, IoT, and new technologies, like in the delivery, in the generation, in the overview of your products for your customer, is fundamental for today's business to survive. Yes, and understand better kind of like their market and their customers. So each business has a different integration of technology. The important thing is that you have clear what is the technology that allows you to better respond to those things that your customer want to accomplish, you want to differentiate, and that you want to lead in your market today and in the future. What is that technology combination? And that technology combination should be informed by what you want to help your customer accomplish today and in the future for you to be the leader in your market. Okay, so those are the bones of a strategic agility. Quite cool, right? Pretty cool. Now, what are the brains of a strategic agility? And that's, of course, strategy, delivery, and decision making. With the strategy, it is very important that for business agility, a strategy has a different approach, right? In agile organizations, a strategy is transient, all right? It has a transient advantage approach rather than a competitive advantage approach. Actually, for agile organizations, competitive advantage is a bit obsolete. Agile organizations are thinking about transient advantage. And as you see here, because this is an amazing breakthrough by Rita McGrath, recommend her. Great work done by her on the end of competitive strategy and looking around the corners for a strategy, right? Great approach to strategy. You will learn from her that transient advantage, it's the ability to find and ride the next value wave through organizational speed and flexibility. Is exploiting today's advantage while scanning for the next opportunity in their arena. So transient advantage is basically the capability of not anchoring to those differentiators that you think that you have in your industry, yeah, but actually, while you're standing in today's advantage, you're at the same time scanning for the next opportunity, and not in your industry, but in your arena. Because her thesis is quite true in a sense that today we don't have fixed industry. We have arenas where many of us are competing, right? So having that notion of what is my transcend advantage and what is the arena that I'm competing in, that's the approach to a strategy that agile organizations have. All right. So that's very interesting, because I bet you many of you in your organizations are using competitive advantage as an approach, right? So think about this. Very interesting. So the other thing that is part of the brains of a strategic agility for business agility is the delivery. Fundamental and fascinating, the delivery. In an agile organization, the delivery of the product, of the services, okay, is focused on the customer, and is obsessed with lead time, not velocity, lead time, and with the customer experience and satisfaction. It relies on teams that are agile. It has an agile workflow, and it has agile working ways. All right. All of this is part of the delivery in a business that is trying to be agile. All right. So it's a delivery that it has a strategy. Our delivery strategy to satisfy what the customer wants to accomplish is this, right? And that strategy will have as an objective for us to deliver an amazing experience and satisfaction and X and Y things to the customer. Yeah, those quality criteria that are our success measure for us. And it relies on some pillars, right? Agile teams, agile workflow, agile working ways. That's something that business agility needs. And the final thing at this level, at the brains level, is the decision making. The decision making in that allows an organization to be agile is fast and smart. Okay, and that means that the decision making is very focused always on balancing the risk and speed. It's not only focused on risk and speed. Hence, something characteristic of agile organizations is that they don't take decisions with 100% of information. And here you will listen about the Colin Powell rule. Agile organizations are taking decisions with an interval of information of between 40 and 70%. Okay, and there's different tools also for agile decision making. The important thing is that a key characteristic of decision making in agile organizations, and that help us achieve, especially as a business agility, is that we don't have a focus on like full answers. What we want to take decisions in an agile business is options to be created, right? And it makes sense, right? If we want to be agile, more than one answer, we want to have the options that we can contemplate, balance out, and then explore and iterate upon and learn from, to keep doing, learning and improving, right? So the final part of the agile lotus is what we call the body of a strategic agility. So we saw the heart and soul. We also got to see kind of like the bones, and we saw just right before the brains. Now we're just going to see the body parts of business agility, and those are team, workflow, big data, financial, leadership, and innovation. Okay. So teams, there's a lot that has been said about agile teams. As you know, something that helps business agility is having teams that are small, that are diverse, that are connected, that are autonomous, and that are quite entrepreneurial. Usually they have as characteristic that They have intense processes of socializing, agitating each other, and achieving synergies. So that means that they don't have to be only scrum teams, like if they're a scrum team that they do not socialize with each other, they do not agitate, they don't have synergy. Well, first of all, it's not a true scrum team, but second, what I just want to make an emphasis is, like, for teams to be agile, they don't necessarily have to be fully just scrum teams, right? But they just kind of have to achieve this. With that said, as a certified advanced Scrum Master, I know that actually Scrum helps a lot teams to achieve this socializing, allows them to agitate and achieve synergies with each other, okay? The other characteristic is the financial, and this is very, very interesting. In agile organizations, the metrics such as revenue, earnings per shares, and margins are complemented with other measures that help us track business speed, interactivity, and how we're pivoting, right? And I got you some example of some metrics for you to see that it's not like something, like intangible. So for example, in agile businesses, product cycle, like how fast it takes us to produce to get to market, that's one key metric. Another key metric at financial level for business that want to be agile is the financial cycle. How long it takes us to turn investment into sales. That's something that business that are agile are thinking, are scouting, are gathering information about. The decision cycle time, that's another key metric that business that want to be agile in their financials are actively gathering, right? Because it tells them how fast they can make decisions. The other one, for example, the interaction cycle time, that's another key metric that businesses that are agile at financial level take into consideration, because it basically tells them the frequency with which you gain customers' insights and you can act to fill their needs. That is such an important metric to keep track of, and business that want to achieve agility at financial level have this. Okay, they complement their strategic metrics with this. And the final measure that I wanted to share with you that help us at this financial level to achieve more business agility is what we call predictive cycle time. And it's basically your ability to use the technologies that we discussed before, for example, AI, data analytics, your customer interactions, to create the new products and services your customers don't know they need. So important, predictive cycle time as a measure. Do we have those measures? Very interesting measures, right? Maybe to contemplate for us to become more agile as a business. As you see, these metrics show you a total different picture of how your business is performing. To not have these metrics it doesn't allow us to have the speed, the interactivity, and the pivoting that we need in today's world, especially in your markets. The other key thing is big data. So actually in agile business, they have an emphasis in forward-looking data rather than in backward-looking data. So it's always very funny with me when there's businesses that they have business analysts and they have a data strategy, and all their data strategy has backward-looking data rather than forward-looking data, right? So you're like, well, how are we going to be agile if there's not a right balance there? So that's the key characteristic of business that want to be agile. They have an emphasis on forward-looking data, okay? As I mentioned, then there's not a strong emphasis on backward-looking data, on what you call just historical data. And leadership basically is informs their decisions through this data. We're just going to discuss a little bit more about tools for this. So with that said, by the way, we didn't cover all the elements right here that are in the body. We're going to have different workshops in the meetup, the Agile Leads, to kind of cover all these body parts, which are fundamental for business agility. We just wanted to mention some of this as we introduce the model. Yeah. So now let's see some of the tools for business agility. Customer centricity, right? So customer centricity is not just saying, oh yeah, we're customer centric. And we think for what we learn from our business staff that this is what the customer, no. It's about using data, what is the data to learn what the customer want to accomplish and what they need. And based on that data, we inform, like we take actions. Yeah. So, well, part of that's one element that inform our taking decision. The other key tool is, for example, ethnographic research and observation, just being on the ground with your customers, seeing how they do things, what they need, what they want to accomplish, right? So that part. And then the other tool that we have here, okay, is active prototyping, yeah, which means like sketching and testing those sketches, digitizing that if you have digital products, yeah. So this approach of active prototyping is another tool for developing customer centricity in your organization. By the way, this is not an exhaustive list of tools to develop customer centricity. These are just some tools, okay? We will be sharing more about tools for a customer-centric approach in the Agile meetup in our upcoming workshops, right? For the area of purpose, we brought you a very interesting framework. It is called the 5 C's, and we want to reference this framework. We learned about it through the amazing Duke corporate training that they currently have on strategic agility. I highly recommend it. So this tool, which is called the 5 C's, allows your leadership team, or you as a founder, or as a COO, or as a CEO, to kind of like think about, well, what's the context? What are the capabilities? Who is my customer? What should we be caring about, right? And with that analysis, what is our call? What are we called? What is our calling? What we should do? This framework is very interesting because it allows background and foreground analysis. As you can see, it allows a hard and soft analysis. It also allows you to do a demand and supply analysis, and it allows you to balance that everything something trade-off, right? So it's a pretty cool tool to think about the purpose. What is our calling? Who and what are we here for? Whom do we serve? Why are we here, right? So that is a great tool just to finding that out. As you see here, you can also kind of like write down your insights, like your market and organization current state, so you can identify what's your current states at context, customer capability, caring, and calling, and what is the purpose in action, like how does the purpose look at context, at customer, at capability, at caring, at calling level. So it is a great tool to actually kind of like think about the purpose. For culture, there's we actually share the Agile Culture Assessment. The Agile Culture Assessment allows you to kind of like check 6 dimensions of your organization culture, like how outside in, the outside in perspective of your organization, how innovative is your organization, how fast is your organization, how connected and collaborative is your organization, how context and principle driven is your organization, how frictionless is your organization, right? So these are some dimensions about an agile culture that the Agile Culture Assessment allows you to know and identify. Then primarily what are some of the first steps that you got to take, right, to make your business more agile at cultural level. And also, there's within the agile culture assessment, kind of like some levers for you to overview and see how you're doing, right? So how we're doing at workflow level, how we're doing at accountability level, how we're doing at influence level, how we're doing at meaning level. These are things also that allow you to leverage agility at cultural level. At a strategy level, currently we have something that is the strategy assessment tool. I will put it in as a link in the YouTube video, and it allows you also to overview that you have this transient approach rather than just a competitive advantage approach. So that's a great tool to actually assess if you're having an agile approach to your strategy. Besides that, we have for decision making also some tools. For example, something that helps an organization be agile at decision level is to have clear decision deadlines. By this time we will take X or Y decision. Even if we don't have full information. So having decision triggers, which at the end are the decision deadlines, help you become more agile with your organization decision-making process. The Colin Powell 40-70 rule also is a pretty good tool to kind of try to become more agile within your organization. Mechanisms and routines that scan and monitor your external environment for leading indicators and weak change signals are also things that can help you achieve more of business agility. And just embracing uncertainty and not being uncomfortable with it helps you also gain some business agility. And being extremely curious, what are some scenarios, prototyping, experimenting. These are things also that allows your decision making to become more agile. Here you have a little some other little templates that allows you to kind of overview your decisions. Yeah. Now, for the delivery, we have something that is called the Agile Barometer, and we would love to share it with you. So if you're interested, just go to the link and do the Agile Barometer, and it gives you some insights on how agile your delivery is. Another tool, but at teams level, is what we call the Agile Teams Assessment. And it allows you to explore how's the socialization, how's the agitation, and how are the synergies that are occurring in your team. This tool, we actually had a chance to learn it thanks to the Duke's corporate education training, as we mentioned. Great. They have this approach for exploring the agile teams, and we really liked it because it doesn't lock teams to process frameworks such as Scrum to see if they are agile, but actually it just overview these core fundamental elements. Yeah. And then there's some tools to explore how agile you're being with the use of your data. So just to explore if you're being reactive, if you're being proactive, if you're over focusing on data that is diagnostic or that is prescriptive. So this tool kind of allows you to ask yourself and clarify what's the approach that you're having to your data. So ideally you're focused on being predictive, right? Of being proactive with your data, right? You're generating data that help you anticipate what will happen in the future. You are using historical patterns to predict specific outcomes, so you can react before things happen, right? That rather than just being descriptive, right? Like, so that's something important. And maybe this tool helps you see, like, well, what are the data analytics that you need to leverage? Do I need to leverage descriptive, predictive, diagnostic, or prescriptive data? Like, that's important. And those data analytic deployments, like where this type of data do I need to deploy it, and how should I? So having this clear helps you as a business be more agile and make the best of your big data too. And also learning where to use your big data. Yeah, right. So like for simple and low impact decisions, right? So what's the type of data approach that I'm going to use? So should I automate the generation of big data or not? That's another key tool that can help you. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed today's discussion on strategic business agility. If you do, leave me your comments. We are keen to learn about you. We are going to be prototyping as an agile organization that we are some products in the area of learning, assessment, experience, and practice. If you're interested on testing them, do let us know. We would love to get you a sample of them. And that's it for us. Thank you so much.